We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll go on to the roll call.
Dr. DiMardo.
Here.
Trina Borneman.
Here.
Dr. Goldie.
Here.
Wayne Gagnon.
Here.
Jill Maddock-Nelson.
Here.
Andy Mary.
Here.
Mary Neufeld.
Here.
Danny Pyatt.
Here.
J.D. Schrader.
Here.
In public comment. Okay, Carol Barrow.
First, I would like to submit a request for information. I would like copies of all the contracts of the district administrators listed on the second page of my request. In addition, I would like the dates, totals of all bonuses and stipends given to each listed for the school years of 2018-19 through the current year 2021-22. And then I have a few thoughts on tonight's agenda. There were numerous contractual and purchase items listed, as well as budget and ESSER funds updates. Based on the dates of some of the services and the consultation contracts for this next year, it seems like some of these actions are a bit premature, especially since to date we've seen no actual data, at least the public has not shown measurable benefits from these services. I think to be good stewards of taxpayers' money, those kind of things should be made available so we know what these services are doing for our students. The CESA 9 contract for this school year, as best I can discern from the information I received, cost the district approximately $65,000, although there may have been added services. That was not part of the contract I saw. Last month, we signed a contract for CESA 9 services, and it was approved for next year, and that's over $150,000. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form this is a bad thing. We may need these services, but again, I feel like the public has no idea what we're getting for these bucks, so it would be nice to know. Tonight, the contracts for the Mathematics Institute of Wisconsin are to be discussed. The district spent at least $25,000 last year on that service. It would be nice to know if they benefit our children. Based on state, district, and some coming from parents I have talked to, mathematic classes scores have been just dismal. We have teachers. Are they not being properly taught? They have credentials, they have degrees. So, why are we needing all these services? I know last year our CESA 9 contract was signed in July. CESA 6 was at the end of May, maybe possibly beginning, I can't read my writing. CP Consulting was in September. Health in Motion, that contract was signed in August. Rural Virtual Academy was signed in June, and the Mathematics Institute was again in June. So that's just a question I have. We're currently spending $182,000 per year for 3 teacher coaches to aid our teachers in their jobs. My question is why? Last month, the board approved 4.7 salary increase for all teachers. I do not believe there were evaluation or merits played any part of this decision. I don't think it's unreasonable to request to see any positive results before we spend any more of our tax dollars, which brings me to the ESSER funds. Per Dr. Sprague and our existing board president, Andy Mary, the majority of the board approved a year-long contract with the Donovan Communication Group for $36,000. Dr. Sprague assured the community at the March 28th school board meeting and was quoted in the paper to say tax money was not used for the service. It was paid for out of ESSER funds. I feel a responsibility I guess, to do a little FYI for you all. ESSER funds are tax money. They are U.S. federal government COVID relief funds. Our government sends these funds to each state, and in Wisconsin, Governor Evers determines how it's distributed. Federal government gets 90 to 95% of its revenue from tax money, be it individual, corporate, or state. Therefore, any resident in this district who pays federal income taxes, like me, contributes to that pot of money. I think that statement was incorrect. I believe I speak for many taxpayers and voters in this district. We have not had adequate math or reading curriculum in this district for many years. So before you start spending more money on outside services, I think we need to see the data for what it's doing for our students and take a look at the curriculums they need to learn. And my final statement is last Tuesday election was a statement by the majority of voters in this district. A winning majority of 51 to 59 is considered a majority. That margin, if it's over 60, is a mandate. Kristen Matt Miller, Angie Schreiber, and Dave Bardo received 61.4% of the votes in this district. Parents, taxpayers, and voters in this district have spoken, and I think it's time the board and the district start listening to what they have to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Bardo. We're going to move on to new business, and item A is spring election results. I saw them up there a while ago, but I think everybody knows what they are. So unless there's any questions or comments, we'll just move on. We'll go on to item B, board member meeting / legislative reports. And does anybody have anything they want to say?
We can't hear you back here.
Okay. How about this? Is this any better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It almost feels like you got to put the mic in your mouth here, but that's fine. So we're having a legislative and meeting report, and so I'm just going to report on, I was at the CISA 9 meeting this past week, and the presentation we had was on WVS, Wisconsin Virtual School. The Wisconsin Virtual Schools had 16,000 enrollments this year, which is about comparable to what they had last year. And those are up from before the pandemic began, when we were running about 8,000 or 9,000. So this year, in 2021-2022, we've started a pilot program for elementary education. There were 71 students in 13 districts. In the fall of 2022, we're going to start more pilot programs. There'll be a K-5 elementary synchronous program, a K-5 elementary asynchronous program, a 6 through 8 middle school synchronous program, and we're also starting 9 through 12 dual credit program in conjunction with university campuses like UWGB, Whitewater, and Oshkosh. And these will be some of the courses they'll have available: biology, French, Spanish, special ed. And do we offer Spanish as a dual credit here now?
Spanish dual credit, my first thought is no. I would have to check.
Yeah, so this
so.
would be an example of a where students might have taken 3 or 4 years of Spanish here in high school, and they could take a dual credit from WVS in conjunction with, I'm not quite sure which university that's coming from, and they get college credit for that. And also, as you know, when you go to college, and you get even more credit depending on how you do in that class. So anyway, this is just another opportunity for parents, if they want to have their kids do virtual school, you know, if they're doing homeschooling. Wisconsin Virtual School is just another opportunity. In the past, Wisconsin Virtual School has only done grades 6 through 12, but there seems to be a big demand for elementary, so we're looking into that. I also attended a webinar this past week on the Department of Education call to action to address teacher shortages. And this was talking about ways to increase the number of teacher candidates prepared to enter the profession in the fall and beyond. It's calling on governors, state school chiefs, state policymakers to commit to establishing a registered apprenticeship program or invest in evidence-based teacher residency programs, or to establish or expand loan forgiveness scholarship programs, or increase teacher compensation. And so this is all based on that we could be using ESSER or GEAR funds to do these things. The one that really interested me was a residency program. So for the board, you should all have this as an attachment here. Although I don't see it as an attachment on mine. But, so anyway, the one that I thought was most interesting was a residency program, because at CESA 9 we have the Teacher in Excellence program, which is really sort of a residency program in that in our district right now we have 2 teachers who have a BS degree but not in education, and they are getting paid to teach, and they are also attending courses at CESA 9 to get their teacher licensure. So they're actually teaching before they have their license, and they're getting paid. In other states, what they do, they're working with universities, and they have this program. And so for students who are in their 4th year at the university, they would get paid. If one of the states is paying $35,000 for that 4th year, and you come and you work as a teacher maybe 3 or 4 days a week, but you also have classes, and you also have somebody there that you meet with to further you along, and you also have a paid mentor to help you along. So that's all good stuff, kind of related to what we're doing already here at CESA, but I think if we could have universities doing it, would be another option. It would, all of these places are, if they're paying that residency fee of $35,000, then they're making teachers commit to teach an additional 3 years in that district. And so it's a way to tie teachers into a district. I know at CESA 9, the tuition fee for the program there is somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. Some districts, including ours, pay that tuition fee to have teachers teaching. And I asked Amy, and she said that here the only commitment teachers have is a 1-year commitment, the year that they're getting their degree. In other districts, it's 3 to 5 years that they make them commit to paying that fee. So these are just some options to think about, and we might want to work or push to get some of this to happen. So, any questions? Okay, we will go on to item C, Board Development Tool Report.
Okay, you see 2 attachments here. The first is the results of the 6, we had 6 of 9 board members complete the survey. So you will see the results there. The second attachment is from Barry Forbes, who for the past few years compiles that information then into an additional report. So for discussion tonight, it's really what is the board's wish. We've had, in the past, we had Barry come in and go over that second report. Last year, we asked WASB to send a different representative and talk to us specifically about community engagement. And that was a valuable workshop. So it's just really what the board, and I recognize members will be changing, but if there's any thought tonight on how we should proceed with this information. Keep in mind too, one side note is that with the Donovan Group, the board will be asked to be intimately involved in creating our strategic plan. So a lot of this, a lot of these data points will be factors in that. So whether or not we go through WASB, we will be examining our performance as we move forward. So that's just another caveat.
Does anybody have any thoughts on whether or not they would like to have a board retreat moderated by somebody from WASB?
I think you better, because the culture, everything under the culture and board operations needs a lot of work, and I think it would be in your best interest. And it seems to me that when we had these before, the public wasn't, was the public invited?
Yes, they're open
Yeah.
meetings. We didn't have any attend, but they're open meetings.
I agree with Mary in that I believe that it would be very beneficial for us to have Barry or another representative. I think did we have Shirley last time? Louise, yeah. Somebody from the team to come up. I mean, Barry gives this report, so maybe he knows this report more intimately than somebody else. So I think it would be beneficial for us to have a work study.
What topic do you think, Danny?
Well, I think we should focus on, especially those bottom ones, as Mary pointed out, the culture, data-driven decisions, district operations, vision, just kind of work our way backwards. And you probably think the same thing.
Yeah, you covered quite a few topics there, but I think you're right. We'll start at the bottom. We don't have to talk about the things that we're doing a great job on.
Right.
But then are you going to be rehashing this? Are we going to do that with the Donovan Group too then?
But my thought would be that we should get some of this done, maybe with a WASB representative, so we move on to other things with the Donovan Group.
But the Donovan Group starts next month?
She just sent a draft today of a timeline. Dr. Deep, I apologize, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I'll be letting the board know. The idea would be to have a draft in place for next school year, so there will be a lot of work done over the summer.
And this would have to be done before you start working
Ideally.
with the Donovan Group.
So Mary Kay could contact Barry and we could see if we could have him or a different representative come in May.
Do you guys have a strong preference to remote or in person? If it opens up his calendar, I'll probably be in the tractor, so I'll probably be listening via Zoom. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'd be better if he was here, but if he,
I think Barry would like to come back home for a little while.
oh, is he from Indigo?
He is, yeah. Family.
Yeah, but I think JD's got a good point. Would we be interested in having it sooner? Is that more important, or is it more important to have it in person?
I would think sooner would be more important, so that we can kind of get things taken care of before we meet with the Donovan Group, so we can spend that time really coming up with the strategic plan.
Okay. But we'll, when we contact him, we'll try and get him here as soon as possible in person. Preference.
Okay.
Okay.
But I think you have to remember that no matter how many times or how many groups or what people you sit with, there's got to be give and take within the board membership. I mean, you've got to be willing to listen and be respectful of what everybody says, or it's a waste of time. So you got to go into it with an open mind.
Good point. Okay. We will go on to item D, the budget update and ESSER 3 information.
So what I thought we could do tonight is we could start with the ESSER 2-3 planning budget document. So if board members can go ahead and open that up. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to review this yet. This is a working document that we're meeting with admin and honing almost weekly. But in addition to this document, I want the board members to know that we received both GEAR funding and ESSER 1 funding last year. And to start the school year off, with ESSER 1 dollars, we purchased $146,000 worth of supplies, and primarily that money was spent on technology. We purchased Chromebooks and Sheets, and then we spent about $14,000 on cleaning supplies and medical supplies. Excuse me. And then we did spend some money on transportation for both the after-school program and the Noboken, getting kids up to the school first. So with that, Amy and I are going to kind of tag team and work through the two ESSER documents that you have in front of you.
Hi everyone, good evening. So on the green you can see that is our ESSER 2 spending. Those are things that we've worked through the board's approval with bringing forward to you starting last spring and possibly even before. Some additional resources, personnel, additional items that fall under the categories for which we have to spend down those dollars. So in trajectory of 3 years, we want to be able to continue on with those things that we brought forward to you. You can see when the green coloring kind of shifts to blue, that's when we shift into the ESSER 3 allocation on that first document. So these are previously discussed and approved items, but I want to make sure that we're kind of seeing that and answering any questions that you might have before we proceed on to potential future planning and ideas. Okay, so then the second document that we have is really a list of generated ideas, and Justin, if you could pull up that second one. It is a green box and a gray box. And in there, we solicited information from our community 2 times, once in December and once more recently in March, and we're seeing really similar results of the items that the community and that was also shared with our teachers, staff, and people could share. And the highest area, which I had shared with you in last week in review, was that of mental health. So you can see in the personnel, we have some ideas there at the top that we're generating with our selected staff. Teachers have been asked if they'd like to participate as well in the planning process. They're more than welcome in talking through this on a regular basis. So you can see at the top, we have some generated ideas. We'd like to work through and vet some of those a little bit more to see how we could implement those. If we were seeking approval for any of those positions, we would bring it to you, of course, first to make sure that we are on the same page and having those questions answered. At the bottom is a laundry list of things from our capital improvement plan, the 10-year plan that Jake Leiterman has brought forward to you before. So you can see that if we expended the dollars on the top portion, which are some personnel and additional supports, not only for our students, but our staff as well, that would total almost $700,000 for just 1 year. So if you multiplied that for the 2-year period that it could be spent down for, we'd have about $500,000 or so remaining. So then that would bring us potentially to some maintenance projects, and we'd have to prioritize then how we'd like to expend those funds.
So when we look at the bottom box, one of the things that's going through my mind that we have to have a little flexibility with is, you can see in green that we have a lot of personnel that we're looking to help support our classroom teachers. And we know through hiring that always isn't just something we can come to you in May and have people ready to go in August. So that's going to be kind of a floating document over the next 2 years. And I've suggested to Jake that we look at his long-range capital plan, and we look at items specifically designed to tie in with the purpose of ESSER. And talking with colleagues, projects that are HVAC related, ventilation related, and social distancing related and safety. So those are the items that we're concentrating on. And I'd like to have the ability to, probably next year at this time, we'll be looking at seeking approval for kind of flexing where that money goes. If we have fewer staff that we're able to hire, we'll have more money for capital equipment or capital projects. And we'll need that flexibility because my understanding of the money is when we get into that, let me just get the dates so I'm speaking correctly. So we have to have the monies, the actual items have to be in place or expenditures in place by the end of the year of the 23-24 school year. And then we have till September to make final claims on those dollars. So it's just important that we give, particularly if we're looking at non-staffing items, a little flexibility because that's going to be a moving target.
Okay. Any questions for Tim or Amy?
So if we can, then let's open up that budget document. So one of the things I struggle with putting the budget together this year, we have a lot of federal aid that is one-time money. And yet the legislature didn't increase any inflationary measures into the revenue limit formula. And we're a district of declining enrollment. So our general fund budget is getting smaller every year. But with all of the federal aid that we have, it just doesn't make sense for me to think that we should be cutting the budget when we're looking at ways to how to target achievement. So what I'll be asking you to do at the monthly meeting is to look specifically at a couple of items. And the first one later in the meeting, we're going to talk about support staff increase. And I would be asking at the end of the month that we come to some decision on that plan. Today was the first time we got to look at our insurance renewals. And prior to last month, I told you I expected a zero renewal. That is not the case. Since January, our utilization has gone up significantly. And the renewal options will be as high as 8% increase. So I will hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have a decision going forward. We're looking at plan design changes and trying to hold that cost increase to an absolute minimum. I'm also going to be asking you to, you've heard the discussion about the uniforms that we've had, and Tom Schofield mentioned that we would be, there's going to be an increase of about 25% on official pay. So I'll be moving forward to recommend that we increase Tom's budget by $25,000. Then if we go down the document, here's where we get into a little bit of, it's a sticky wicket because there will be a financial cliff. We are using ESSER dollars to supplant general fund money. And I'm doing that primarily if you look down, when we go down to the technology budget and the remodeling budget. In those particular items, we have a healthy number in both technology and remodeling, potentially, with ESSER. That's an area where we can free up general fund money by utilizing that federal aid, and I am suggesting that we do that. I'm also suggesting to reduce the capital equipment budget. That's an area that I use to balance the budget once we have enrollment and and third Friday count and equalization aids and all that figured out. And this year we had 140,000 that was put in there. When we do something like the uniform purchase, or later in the month you're going to hear about some CTE initiatives, that's where those dollars come from to cover those particular items. And down the road, as the budget gets tighter, there will be requests from principals and teachers for capital equipment within their classroom and within their buildings. But once that money has been taken out of the budget, it'll be really difficult to get it back in. I'm also suggesting we've got forfeitures at Mid-America for teachers that were eligible for our retirement plan and left the district prior to retirement age. We have sufficient funds for next year's payment. But again, once we take that money out of the budget, we're going to have to find a way to put it back in. So I will be asking for those items to get moved over. I'm a little reluctant at this point in the year to suggest that we do anything with the personnel budget. And the reason I am is we're looking at hiring the best candidates we can. And when we look at the retirement savings, that's the difference between someone that's 25 years plus and a newbie right out of college. Those candidates might not, the newbies might not be the ones we end up hiring. So to have that flexibility to know what that number is now is typically what the difference between health insurance and non-health insurance. And when we hire those kids right out of school, they generally are still on their parents' health insurance plan, and that's about anywhere from a $7,000 to almost $20,000 savings. So that would be an item that I would shift later as the hiring process has taken place. The other thing I want us to be mindful of is end of year spending. I think if we next year, if we make a hard cutoff and we tell our principals and our teachers no that we're going to make a hard cutoff, we can certainly make up the difference where we have this big end of the year rush to buy supplies for next year. Questions?
So when you're talking about that hard cutoff, that's a hard cutoff date?
Yeah, this past Friday was the date where they were supposed to have requisitions in for any supplies for the remainder of the school year. And then we always get that anomaly, and it's not really an anomaly where can I stretch it one more week or, yeah.
Any other questions, Kim? Okay. Is that it for that? All right.
Thank you.
We will move on to support staff wage increase proposal.
Okay, on this one, what I'd like you to do is to open up, I think it's going to be table 1. So I'd like to spend a little bit of time telling you about the work Melanie and I have been doing the last couple of weeks. So in the fall, DPI requires Melanie to report on something called a PI 1202. And it's a really staffing report that DPI collects information on. And they collect salary data on anybody with a license, a certified staff member. So for all of our non-certified staff members, we don't really have a good way to get accurate data on what other districts are paying their support staff. So this data is hard to come by, but for the last couple of years, Forecast 5 has got an analytic tool. And the HR director in Wausau, along with other bigger school HR directors, are driving this survey data. And so we take the same information that we would normally give DPI, and then DPI, the problem with DPI is it's never current. It's always at least a year late. Well, what the forecast data is, it's voluntary to go ahead and be a part of it, but it's current fiscal year data. So it's 21, 22 data. And it's salary data or wage data by support staff personnel. So not every school in the area is choosing to actually participate in the survey. The information is available to anybody that wants it, but not everyone fills it out. And the legwork up front is really quite arduous. So what I did is I took the, so if you look at that, let me open it up here. So what I did is I took schools, I'm trying to get schools that are representative of our region. And if I get into C-7, that's getting in towards Green Bay. And I want to stay out of the valley. And I'm looking at some of our demographics. Like one of the schools I like to look at would be like Portage Community. They're very similar to Anago. The others in the survey may not be. I mean, obviously Wausau, Rapids, Stevens Point, much bigger schools. But the point is we have a very limited number of districts with current year data that we can look at. So if you look at the bottom of the sheet, we have a percentage of comparable. And then you can see by class, which would be our wage schedule, where those people that are our employees, what percentage are they compared to this group of comparables. And in the memo, I talk about whether this is the right group of school districts. I don't know, but it's the best data that we have available. So I think when you look at it, we're across the board generally within reason, and it seems very reasonable that our current wage schedule would meet with what others are paying. However, we have a two-tiered custodial schedule. And the information in the red box is our comparables for this second tier. So custodians hired after July 1 of 2007 are paid less than those hired before that date. So Jake and I have met, seems like for months, going over this. And Jake is proposing, he's recommending that we do a 95 cent an hour adjustment to the base wage for both housekeeping and custodial prior to doing a CPI. Second, he's got a groundskeeper that's essentially on call for both snow plowing in the early mornings, evenings, as well as on the weekends, who is responsible for, operating equipment, and he wants to get that wage more competitive, and he is recommending a $2 per hour base wage increase prior to CPI. We also have a retirement of a head custodian. I'm recommending we put the new position on the new schedule. And it would appear that if we had a starting wage of $20.31 for that position, that is at least reasonable. And again, this is prior to CPI adjustment. That's what I would be recommending. Jake is changing that position, and he has an electrician who he'd like to make an electrician HVAC technician. This individual has a master electrical license and is also capable of repairing and monitoring our building automation system and all of our HVAC equipment. He's a highly skilled individual. Jake is recommending a $2 an hour increase for that individual as well. And then finally, we have not changed the shift differential for second shift for as long as I've been in the district. And we're recommending a change from 10 cents, I believe it is, an hour for second shift to 50 cents an hour for second shift. So I'm going to stop there with the custodial changes. Does anyone have any questions of what we're recommending? And again, this is all prior to CPI.
Yeah, those custodians are on two different scales, we're saying, but are you recommending a 95% increase for both of those?
Just the new schedule. So Andy, if you want to go ahead and let's open up that wage schedule sheet. So if you look at the bottom there, the bottom half, you can see the, I'm going to call it the old schedule for those hired before. And the changes Jake is proposing is because of retirements we've either had during this school year or prior to the start of next school year. So after you've, after you've had time to review it, this would be something that we would bring forward then for the full board meeting at the end of the month. Then I'd also like to have you pull up table 2.
Tim, just 1 second. The percent of comparables. So you just took the average, and then you said you took the average of the peer group, and then you said what percent we are compared to the average.
Correct. And JD, what I've tried to do is I've tried to strive to get to within 95% of that group average. So then I really want to take a look at administrative assistants and how we are doing with those staff members. And again, this is the first time I've had real-time data to be able to look at that. And again, are those the right schools? I don't know. But it would appear to me, so on this one I took out, I did a little differently. Because the school range is so broad, that you have big schools that might be paying $10 more an hour. That's obviously a different position. So I took out the highs and I took out the lows, and then I came with the average. And if you look at that, what I'm suggesting is there's 2 positions that we have that looks like they need an adjustment. And I'll let Dr. Sprague make the recommendation for Mary Kay, but our payroll specialist, I believe, that classification 1 needs an adjustment. And I'm recommending that we adjust it by $1 an hour. We have a very complex benefit package between our HRA, our OPEB benefit, and just our health insurance plan's complex. And this person really has to be detail oriented. And I think it would warrant that, looking at that as an adjustment. So then again, at the end of the month, we'd want to approve that recommended wage schedule unless you have other plans.
Any questions, comments there, board?
Dave, did they seem reasonable to you? Or do you think you'll want to do something different?
Okay. Then this will come back.
So what you see there, well, it says motion, we'll ask for approval at the end of the month. But when we consolidated, the board approved a $1,000 retirement incentive for certified staff. And what it did was help us avoid layoffs. Through attrition, then we were able to staff our buildings accordingly. Well, what we didn't do was factor in support staff. And while certified staff, we had that deadline of March 15th to help us get a jump on hiring replacements. Support staff, what we'd like to recommend is that they be in the district for 10 years and submit a retirement notice at least 90 days before their retirement, which would give us adequate time. Because obviously we're not on it would be nice to have everyone in place for the start of the school year, but sometimes these notices come in outside the district calendar. So any questions about this proposal, which you'll see again in a couple weeks?
Okay, we'll go on to item G. Mathematics Institute of Wisconsin 2022-23 contract.
Okay, so attached, you can see there are two contracts there. So in the past, we've contracted with the Mathematics Institute of Wisconsin for primarily our elementary schools. And the representative with that company at this time we're working with is Paige Richards. She helps our staff as a whole at the elementary, including principals, but also specifically then works with 3 of our staff who are targeted for math, both interventions and then support for our teachers within the classroom. She helps them prepare for math strategies, and then they prepare PD for our teachers. And that has really been catching fire this year, and we would like to extend that up into our grades 4 and 5 math because they use the similar programming of My Math. So it's really a supplementary support to that curriculum to boost some of the math talk, the strategies that the students are learning. The reason that we wanted to bring this forward earlier than in the past is because they're a very busy institute. They have a lot of school districts wanting to work with them, and we wanted to be able to reserve the dates. We coincided the elementary and the middle school dates so that they're able to come and stay and work with both schools at the same time or both grade levels. And as far as the impact that we're seeing, not only are our teachers wanting to be able to access some of the professional development that they've seen live and in action based off of the learning with the Math Institute, they want to join that, our 4th and 5th grade teachers, but also mid-year when we were able to bring you some data both in proficiency and growth, you could see that our students at the K-1 and 2 level were significantly exceeding where they had been last year at mid-year at the same time. And we credit a lot of that to not only the supports within our schools that we have in those individuals that work specifically with the Math Institute, but the ability for our grade level teachers to be able to witness some of the modeled lessons that Paige is able to do. She does fish bowls where teachers come in, they watch her teach, they're able to see some of those strategies in action, and then the coaches and AGR support, that's how we're funding those 3 individuals at the elementary, are able to then carry that out within the classroom and follow up and support the teachers both in professional development, reminders, resources, and just conversations with the students. At the middle school level, we don't have the luxury of AGR funds because that's targeted for K-3 or former SAGE funding programming. So we'd like to either utilize some of our ESSER 3 funds to be able to extend that opportunity to our 4th and 5th grade teachers, or use some grant funds in title or another way so that we can have some consistent approaches for our teachers. Again, we won't have extra targeted individuals, but we do have volunteers, I will say, who are passionate about math at both 4th and 5th grade, who are classroom teachers, who are willing to take time, spend, and learn to be able to help their peers grow and implement some of these strategies so we can continue to see growth and proficiency for our students at grades 4 and 5. So when we come back at the full board meeting, we'll be asking for approval of both contracts so that we can pencil in, move that pencil to pen so we can get these dates on the calendar, have them reserved, and be able to support our teachers K-5 in our math growth. Are there any questions at this time about the contract at all, or more of what that looks like when Paige is in district supporting our teachers and staff?
Do we survey our staff when she's here? I know when CISA comes in and does something, there's always a survey at the end asking, was this useful? Do we do that for the Math Institute?
So with our professional development days this year, we've kind of earmarked rotating between math and ELA, targeting our K-5 teachers because they live in both worlds a lot of the time. And on our exit slips, generally we have questions around you see some of it in the weekly review about meeting your needs for immediate impact on your students now, but oftentimes there are comments about the PD that's delivered by our AGR staff. Paige isn't here on PD days. She preps our staff to be able to deliver that PD to our staff to support our staff. And so there's lots of comments about that. And that was also where 4 and 5 teachers saw some of this happening and were excited and wanted to be a part of that as well.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? Okay, we could go on to item H. EduClimber software purchase discussion.
Okay, so if you've been a part of the board for a while, you've heard us bring up 5 Lab perhaps as a contract that we've utilized in the past as a data warehousing for our instructional practices, our progress monitoring data, our different state assessments, and it's kind of a data warehouse for us to be able to put together dashboards and also utilize that in-house to make team decisions and provide next steps for what we might want to do. And I often hear in the setting that people have a strong desire for us to bring data forward based on our decision making and how we want to do that. So I come here with both kind of a positive point and also kind of a frustration that as a district we've had. 5 Lab we've had for a number of years and we've paid for, and it has been a little bit of a letdown. We've had a lot of misfires, I would say, with checking the data and not really feeling like it was clean data to be able to make good decisions or even bring forward in a setting like this to present some of it to you. There are some nice dashboards they've prepped for us. They have combined with another company right now and it's become quite clunky for them, and we've been called called a legacy client because we were one of the first to sign on. But unfortunately in that process we were a little bit left behind in some of the updates that were given to the newer clients, and we've just kind of not been able to have full trust in that product. Oftentimes when we bring it forward to try to ripple it out and bring it forward to a larger group of stakeholders of teachers or maybe a committee to look at some data, we'd often come back with more questions than solutions of what we're seeing being valid and if it was correct in the data warehousing, leading to a lot of, like I said, misfires and just not really trusting in the product. At the same time, when there was a decision made to go with 5 Lab, we had also vetted eduClimber and some other various resources. There was one through Infinite Campus as well that we had vetted to be able to do some data warehousing for us. And eduClimber is one that was created by educators for educators and is really able to drive decision making and provide next steps for our teachers, not only in a classroom setting but district-wide. So some of the things that we are using 5 Lab for on a consistent basis include things like our PBIS data or some data tracking. Specifically at the high school is really the only place that they've found validity and use in that product. We could easily carry over that data source, but then also be able to build some of our tiered levels of support. We've been working on that as well this year to build not only our universal, but tier 2 and tier 3 intervention systems in ELA and math. We're starting to reevaluate ELA and narrow that down so we have consistent resources, but also build our math support system because we did not have one in place. So this system would be able to help us. It provides templates for teachers. It provides easy grouping for staff to be able to create and then hone in specific fields of data to be able to really target whether it's in their classroom or I'm a specialist working with title students. It pulls in our data sources such as our FastBridge assessments and also our statewide assessments, which 5 Lab does as well, but this program is actually contracted with FastBridge, so it'd be a much easier carryover for us those 3 times a year when we are benchmarking. So the fees that you see, there's a fee that's associated with the implementation phase. That's new for any system that you have where you have a data warehousing, because there's a lot of data that's carried over, and it would be multiple years that would be brought over, at least 3 that we would start with. And that's kind of a lot of communications between me, Mark and his department to make sure that a lot of those things are carried over. But then there's a yearly fee then of upkeep, which we currently have with 5Lab, but we just don't feel like that tool is really giving us what we had hoped it would in accurate reporting and data. So we would like to make a switch and use this as opposed to 5Lab in the future for our data warehousing needs, and also our data extract and analyzation moving forward.
Okay. We're voting on this at the end of the month.
Correct.
Will you do a little web demo of it for us? I have,
Oh.
now that I've been on the board a long time. What did we have when Brian, what did he want to try right before he left? We spent $20,000 on perception something or some statistic program.
We had Tableau for Infinite Campus. That was so when we made the decision for Tableau, it was between Tableau and eduClimber at that time. We went with Tableau as a team because it fit into Infinite Campus, which was a system we already had in place. We thought it would easily integrate. When we started learning more about it, they were really in the infancy stages, and it was a lot about, I don't want to speak for those who are more intimately involved in the setup of that, but it was like you were computer programming. Like you really had to have good knowledge of computer databases, writing code, and it was more than we had bargained for at that time. And I believe we tried to get out of that contract early because it was way more than we had thought it would be.
And then we got this, we did forecast 5 thing during Colleen and Kelly's first year, right? Was that?
So there's a whole suite of like 5 site, has a lot of different, that's a whole entity or suite of things. So Tim uses a software in there that shows some of those data sources that you see with comparisons to different school districts when he's looking at some of that data. 5Lab is their version of the data warehousing for students, but he utilizes his quite a bit. It's accurate, it's suits his needs. We just haven't found that in this process that it has been true or accurate data that we're seeing consistently.
So the worst part of these is getting good data into
Correct.
the statistic program.
Correct.
So we're hoping this one will.
We asked those questions actually when we started looking into this more, because I didn't want to run into the same frustrations for anybody. And to be honest, we haven't had the opportunity to roll this out with a lot of our teachers because we've been so apprehensive with all of the errors that we've been noticing. So we asked a lot of those questions about, if our data isn't clean, how do the errors get corrected? What is the process? Who would we contact? What does the support look like? So that we're not feeling like we're not able to utilize the purchased.
So this FastBridge automatically downloads into this, like pretty much automatically, not like you guys have to do a ton of work to get it there?
Yeah, once you get the script set up, it'll automatically flow. But FastBridge and they're all part of Illuminate Education Suite now. So that's kind of a growing company that's encompassing more and more. So eduClimber and FastBridge are both part of Illuminate, which is their parent company.
Okay. So it analyzes the data differently than FastBridge alone.
Correct.
Why does it do it differently? Just has more statistical tools or different dashboards, or it's like a...
Yeah, you're exactly hitting it on. And if you'd like a short demo, we could have one prepared that could be 5 minutes or so just to show a brief overview. But it'll take different data sources for a student and be able to triangulate the data, bring in multiple, and then look at the student as a more comprehensive view as opposed to just this one data point, and then bring it together and then try to make a spreadsheet with another data point. It'll do that in real time for you, but then also be able to show growth charts for those students, also provide parent letters or updates so that we can have a whole system of communication tools at our fingertips, but also have real data in real time that we can use in the classroom.
There's not parent access, is there? Do they could like check on their kid throughout the week by looking on this thing?
I am not quite sure if that's something, but we'd have to
Or does data not get entered into it enough that that would be something they'd want to?
So what it does is it pulls from your other data systems. So that's kind of a setup. So it would pull like from Infinite Campus nightly. It pulls from FastBridge. It would pull from WiseDash, where it would have like forward exam data or other ACT data and things like that. So I don't think there's necessarily a login at this moment for that, but I can't speak to that 100%.
And to clarify too, because Tim has had such success with Forecast 5, he would continue with that part. It's not, it's the parent company but separate, and I would want him to continue using that. But for our purposes, it didn't work.
Did other people end up liking it? Did it work better for them? Okay, we were like literally the first one, weren't we?
Are you talking about 5Lab?
Yeah, the 5Lab version of it. Did anyone else, it worked better for them? Other districts? Or they?
I'm just not aware of my colleagues that are using 5Lab. And when you think of the accounting part, you have an account number. You know, there are 420 school districts that have to use the same account number. So in terms of getting a system that works, it's just so much easier.
I just really hope this one works.
Key is it's super teacher friendly. It was designed by a
Yeah,
psychologist.
it was designed by school psychs for teachers specifically, and they were very responsive at the beginning as teachers were giving input of what they wanted. They were adjusting it readily. Now they've become very large, and it's a little different than it used to be in the good old days, but it's very responsive and very user friendly. We have staff in our district who have shifted here, who have used it in other districts, and can't say enough good things about using that program for their data warehousing, progress monitoring, intervention groups, or even groups within your classroom, parent communication, and just data tracking in general.
And you don't have to enter data twice, right? Like it's pulling from everywhere else, so you're not doing twice the amount of work anymore.
Correct. And so when I think about some of the reports that we've shared with you, or some of the things that we look in the building to create for dashboards or different things, meetings we have with students who have, whether they're high needs or different things, this could help us pull all of that together without having to create a Google Doc for that or a different spreadsheet. It would help us create those systems right within that structure.
Does it work with Canvas at all?
I would think it would. I believe we may have asked that question, but I can't recall at this moment. Canvas pulls from Infinite Campus, so I would think yes, because we are connecting those two systems already.
Okay.
What would you pull there, Trina? Would you want to
From
pull,
Canvas?
yeah, like test scores or something out of it, or like little quizzes?
So I haven't used eduClimber in probably 5 years, but I don't know if you could pull grades and if that would be helpful for, I'm thinking like high school level, and I'm not totally familiar with what Canvas is all being used for at this point or how in depth we are with it. But I'm just thinking if you have a student who's maybe credit deficient, if that would be another way to catch that. I don't know. The last time I used eduClimber was really just starting, and it was focused on behavior. What we really liked about it was that you didn't have to enter it in Infinite Campus and then enter it in another system. It would just pull that. Because either way, it has to go into Infinite Campus because it has to get reported. Some things have to get reported to the state. So I don't know how it works with Canvas enough.
So the state makes us use Infinite Campus?
No.
No.
The state makes you use something that will report certain data points to them. So like Infinite Campus is one of those you could use, but you have to report, like behavior-wise, this out there, I have no idea. I'm not saying anything about the school district, I'm just throwing this out there. But like seclusion and restraints have to be reported to the state to make sure you're following that legal process. And so you have to have some sort of software that will report that and pull, I think it pulls nightly to WiseDash.
Yes.
And so like when you're doing the ACT, which is now the statewide assessment for high school, and the forward, they're pulling that student information for you right from whatever your data system is. So like Infinite Campus is ours, but we could use Skyward would be another one you could use. You just have to have one of those. That makes sense. Some of them are more more user friendly, and some of them things like eduClimber where you can pull things, and some of them you're recreating the documents all the time. It's just really tedious, to be totally honest.
Was PALS, we used to have that, but that was FastBridge now, or did I make that word up?
PALS was a That was a progress monitoring assessment, yes. So we used to have PALS and Ames Web, and we no longer utilize those programs in Fastbridge. It's a replacement, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions here? Okay. Then we'll go on to item I, social school for an agreement.
Okay, so this is our social media company. We haven't talked about it in 3 years because, as you can see on the attachment, if you commit to a 3-year contract, you get a $3,000 price break. It's typically $11,000 a year, or it can go down to 10 if you commit for 3. We've had tremendous success. The feedback when I share those report cards with you. We are reaching a lot of people through social media, and it isn't just us. That's kind of the way of the world right now. And so my recommendation is to continue with the company, sign a 3-year contract. They manage Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for us. So
tweet and Instagram, I guess, is that on those? So
and so they monitor the, you know, like if there's an inappropriate comment or whatever, so they alert us if there's anything concerning, they alert us, and they're not on 24 hours a day certainly, but what I do like is that consistent monitoring so that we're aware of what our followers are thinking and feeling without having to live on it, which we can't afford to do, so.
Okay, any questions, comments about that?
So this is nothing that the Donovan Group would do?
So I checked into that, correct. They would, part of their initiative is to create posts and like press releases and things, which we've always done on our own. But they are not a social media company, so we would still have to post information if they created it.
So who makes like the yearbook throwbacks? Does this group do that? Or
Yes, this group does that.
It seems like people like it.
They do. They're very popular.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on this? Okay, then we'll go on to item J, Noboken School Forest Epoxy Floor.
So we have put part of the building into epoxy flooring originally. That was part of kind of the construction phase. We did not have enough money to do the whole building at that time. So this would be the remainder of the building, which would complete it then. The funding would be donated from, I believe, I don't have that 100% in our hand yet. I will confirm that before the board meeting, but that was the discussion and the intent from my understanding. So I have 3 quotes, and obviously I'd be recommending that we go with Mid North and bring that back for approval at the board.
This is, I can't remember this right, Jade. Did we originally talked about spending a lot of money to do something to the floor, but we didn't? Is it different than we'll seal it, or?
Yeah, we had talked about doing a polished concrete, which would, you kind of grind the top layer off and you see the aggregate more, and it does look nice. Very expensive. This is a nice floor as well, just much more reasonable.
So it's something that goes on top of the concrete, that's what I should do?
And it allowed us the ability to do it as we got funding versus if we did the polished concrete, we would have had to do that right away when we poured the initial stuff.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Then we will move on to middle school epoxy flooring.
So this flooring would be in replacement of the asbestos that we're abating, that you guys have already approved a couple months ago. I don't have final numbers because I'm working change. We have one additional classroom that, speaking with Heather McCann, we want to add to that project. It's adjacent to a hallway that we're doing, so it shouldn't be a big deal, but I don't have all of those final number details nailed down yet, so for competitive reasons, I didn't want to show anything obviously tonight, but I would have final numbers for you at the Board of Education meeting.
Okay. We're good on that? Okay, we'll go on to the middle school brick repair.
So this one is kind of consistent with the roofing projects. You had approved a portion of the 3-story and a portion of the 2-story. As we got into more of the design and the actual inspection of that project for the 3-story, we found some things that we thought might be concerning. As we explored more, were quite concerning. A lot of it is just tuck pointing, fixing
what was your word?
tuck point, which the grout lines between the bricks need to be ground out and redone to help with moisture and rain getting into the brick. Some replacement of some bricks because some of them have deteriorated. And then secondly, there's a portion on the 2-story that the roof that we're doing that borders a old chimney that was from the steam boilers back in 1920s and 30s. We still use that chimney for our current boilers, but over the years that heat from that exhaust deteriorates that brick as well. So the first year that I was here, we took that down probably almost 30 feet. Got it to a good spot where we had good quality. Knowing that as time goes on, that was going to have to be addressed again. Now that we're doing the roof that's adjacent to it, we can properly wrap, flash, and seal that top off so that that does not continue to happen. And that would include a stainless steel flue for the current boilers. Now that it's at a manageable height, that we can extend a flue through there.
Is that where you're talking, Jake? We had that leak over the band room.
Unfortunately, no, that's a separate issue.
Oh, okay.
So,
What'd you do for that leak on the band room?
so there's a metal facade that goes from probably about a foot and a half off of the flat surface of the roof, and it extends up on the side of the domed roof of the old gym. What can happen is if we get a couple of things, either the correct sequence of events for a snowdrift and then a fast melt, sometimes that can push up under that metal facade and get into the building there. Or in the case that we had those ice storms where that ice came and those snow drifts, and then the rain just followed that ice in. So we have that corrected. We understand it better now. We will keep an eye on it. If it's properly shoveled out and maintained, it doesn't happen. But this was the first year in a long time since it bit us, and it happened to be the right conditions. So nothing structural was damaged as far as like the outside that we have to fix. There was some damage to some band equipment and some of the ceiling that we'll have to repair, but overall nothing too major.
Okay. Anything else on this?
I just do want to point out that the 3 companies that I had here, right now it's really tough for these companies to find the labor and have the time in their schedule as everything. And I called a few different companies that said that they wouldn't even come look at it. Norcon did take a look at it, but after that they looked at their schedule and they just said that it's
emailed saying she would have to leave, so I believe she is gone.
Okay. Then we'll go on to item A, the first reading of the NEOLA policy 4140. And does anybody have any questions or comments?
We are bringing this forward because thanks to Melanie Ryan, we discovered that NEOLA's policy did not match what's been in our handbook for a long time. So she discovered that, and we should rectify the two. So we're asking you to take motion on the first reading so that it matches the handbook. Certainly if there's a termination of a contracted position, those all go to the board for approval. This would be support staff only.
Any comments? Questions? Then let's just go ahead and do a roll call vote on these.
Do you
We
want
need
to
a
do
motion.
Oh, we need the motion. Yes, okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I move the board approve the first reading of NEOLA policy 4140, termination and resignation.
Second.
Okay, now we can go ahead with the roll call.
Bartle?
Yes.
Borneman?
Yes.
Deep?
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes.
Neufeld?
Yes.
Hyatt?
Yes.
Yes.
Mary?
Item B, consideration to approve Fieldhouse speakers.
I move the board approve the bid from Soundworks for replacing the Fieldhouse speaker system in the amount of $25,397. Second.
Okay,
I do have a question. So Soundworks only has 19 speakers listed, the other two had 20?
Yes, they had different speaker systems, so they figured that the 19th one would be all that they needed. I wanted to explain a little bit more on the B&H photo one. Is an incomplete. They didn't have enough equipment to actually price out, so they asked us to estimate how much it would be, but they were still short on actually giving us a number on a few of the parts. So it is listing that it's less, but they don't have all the equipment needed to do the job. They'd have to add some labor on anyway. So that's why that one's at $27.05.
How old's our old one?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know it's almost 15 years old from what I've heard.
These things work pretty good. Is it hard to like fix that, or is it?
Yeah, it gets a little complicated when they get to be that old to find parts to get them going again.
when will these be installed?
I'm hoping that they'll all get here by June 30th and have our own guys put them in. So as long as parts are there, and that's what Soundworks is telling us that they should be able to do. And over the summer get it. So.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Roll call.
Borneman?
Yes.
Deep?
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes.
Neufeld?
Yes.
Hyatt?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Bartle?
Yes.
Mary?
We'll go to item C, consideration to approve classroom 108 furniture purchase. If somebody'd like to make a motion.
I move the board approve the class 108 furniture purchase from Claremont Printing in the amount of $12,500.
Yeah, second.
Okay.
But I have a question. Is it time for questions?
Yes.
Okay, when it says classroom 108, does that mean that's the number of the classroom? Or is that it says furniture codes for classroom 108. 108,
That's the one.
Room number.
oh, it's the room number, okay.
That classroom is being revamped as part of Moving Partners, which will be moving over to the high school. And this classroom will be used as for art classes as well as
questions? Then we'll go ahead with the roll call.
Yes.
Gagnon? Newfeld? Hyatt?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Bardo?
Yes.
Boardman?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes. Item B is consideration to approve GEDO 2 classroom furniture purchase.
I move the board approve the GEDO 2 classroom furniture purchase from Claremont Printing in the amount of $10,558.
I'll second.
Okay. Comments on this, or? We're just good? Okay. Go ahead with the roll call.
Gagnon?
Yes.
Newfeld?
Yes.
Hyatt?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Bardo?
Yes.
Boardman?
Yes.
Deep?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes. We'll go on to item E, consideration to approve position analysis, school social worker, school counselor.
I just want to clarify, it's only a school social worker, which was in the posting. I'm not sure why the title didn't get changed on the agenda. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that we're
Will you say
requesting.
it one more time with the mic now?
The position analysis that I submitted was for a social worker. The title at the time that we were considering, I wasn't sure if we were going to try to post for both to see what candidates we would get. I wanted to clarify and make it very clear we are going to be posting, if it's approved, for a school social worker, a second school social worker.
So Heidi, the FTE affected where it says when additional new position and it has both, just cross out counselor?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to approve that position analysis? To approve that position, I should say.
I move the board approve the position analysis review for school social worker.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
And just so you know, if we do need counseling in the future, that would be a separate, if we need to add any counseling. I just wanted to separate it out, just so you know that may come.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead with the roll.
And this is being funded for the 2 years through ESSER funds, correct? Okay. Not general fund, and then it'll be revisited after the 2 years.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Roll call.
Newfeld?
Yes.
Hyatt?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Bardo?
Yes.
Boardman?
Yes.
Deep?
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes. Item F, consideration to approve Central Wisconsin Schools recruitment promotion for 2022. Start with the motion if somebody.
I move the board approve the sponsorship in the Central Wisconsin Schools recruitment promotion as presented.
Second. Okay, this handout or attachment was first presented to Tim from his professional association, and then I heard about it. It was presented at the PAC exec committee, which is all CISA 9 superintendents first, and then we had a presentation on it Friday when I was actually in Tomahawk. So when you consider the attachment that's under board legislative updates, talking about the crisis we're in with staffing all across the nation, this is a new idea that I had not considered, but it comes to us from actually the folks at Channel 7, WSAW. And I'm sure you can read it, but it's designed to be a recruitment promotion, and kind of the ads would be featuring our Antigo staff if the board approves. Otherwise, we would just hope that people recognize us as public school district as well. The first 10 to sign on, their district names will be used. But they're 30-second commercials with the premise that schools are a great place to work. And the interviews, actually, the footage would be shot, like I said, with our own employees who are asked what they like about working here in the Unified School District of Antigo. So I bring it to you. I think it's a great idea. Of course, it costs money. But we have other markets and we're doing other things like the daycare and social media. The fact remains, when I was on weekend earlier today with all of our postings, the highest number I saw was 4 candidates for any position, and we have a number of positions. So it really is up to the board if we would like to try something like this to bring in interested candidates.
Julie, are we also going into job fairs and markets like that, advertising?
Yes.
Who's doing that? Who's representing the district?
Usually Melanie Ryan Clint Rogers has gone a number of times. Like the elementary principals just interviewed again today, I believe. So if there's a significant posting that the hiring administrator wants to scout for, then they'll attend. Usually Melanie, though.
Clint, how successful are you when you go to a job fair, getting a candidate?
It depends. I've been attending some virtual job fairs, which has been a unique experience this year, and attending one in-person job fair. One thing that I've done this year and last year is make a recruiting screencast and sent it out. We did hire a teacher, and she's doing really well off of that last year. I had a couple contacts with the one I sent out this year, but we haven't hired anybody of the job fairs that I've attended. So, but I don't let people just walk by. I grab them in the hall and train them in and take some pictures and ask them some stuff. And it's a good connection piece for sure. And I think the possibility is definitely there to make a hire off of one of those. It's just, I personally have only had a limited experience with them. So I've been to 2 virtual and 1 in person this year.
Okay, thank you.
What does that mean to send out the, like you email it out to like a school event list or something, or your little promo clip, or?
Yeah, I looked at the licensure, anybody who has adjusted their application in the last 30 days with the licensure that we're looking for. And so the one we hired last year came to us from Florida. She just sat on that for a while, and then she said she watched the video again and did that about my contact information, and she gave me a call and started talking, and then we did a video conference interview and hired her after that.
Julie, what'd you say? What'd you call the website that you found to see for candidates?
WeCan is it's like the place that you apply for all educators statewide.
So that's where we post
Correct.
job postings.
And also social media again. Yeah. I think
So when we
that's it.
post and we can do all educators across the state know that site, and that's where they go to.
Right.
Yeah.
WSAW give you any success stories of other school districts that have done this in the past and said they've hired 1, 2, 5 candidates through this?
I
This
guess it's their
$12 is just
first.
a lot of money.
It is, and this is their first time, Danny, so they
Okay.
don't have any of that data. It was Keith Hiltz from Wausau who presented the idea. They worked with him, asked him to reach his colleagues, and so brand new.
Julie, if I could add, at the presentation, the business manager from Wausau presented, and this is going to be their second year doing it.
I did not know that.
They ran it last year just on their own. and bought spots. And they thought it was effective enough to expand it this year.
Effective, and they hired people through this? Did they identify people that they hired through this?
I don't know the numbers.
Okay.
I wonder how much a normal TV commercial is. You know, if we're getting a deal or if it's a.
Because I'm looking at that site right now, and we have the Associated Bank ad that's popping up on the website.
Yeah, I think when you're running ads like that, you never know, when you ask how many people came directly from these ads, well, this is just one more thing that might influence them.
However, I'm thinking all educators know about WiseDash. Not WiseDash, WeCan, sorry, thank you. All educators know about WeCan. So is it justifiable to me to spend taxpayers $12,000 to advertise for potentially no client, no teacher coming? I don't know.
Yeah, the catch here is we are very close to the point where no teacher applies. I mean, when Julie says 4 is the most we got applying, yeah, it's just getting harder to attract teachers.
What do you think the chances are a kid might see that and say, oh, I'm going to go to education school? Do you think they're all watching Netflix and so it doesn't matter?
Well, you might have
Maybe our money
somebody
should be
who
on
lives in
TikTok.
another state, and parents might live in this area and see this and communicate with them. Maybe they're looking to get back into the area. I like the part where it says where the sponsorship benefits, and it lists in there mental health and the importance of mental health initiatives in schools. And I just, for me personally, I think that that is something that is worth the money. Just trying to help with the mental health situation, and I don't know, I think it's can you do it for 6 months? Do you have to do it for a year? What did I see here, 6?
It is 6 months.
It's 6 months.
But this is only on the app on the phone, so it's nothing else.
Oh, it's not on the TV? I guess I just thought it was
It's a broadcast TV campaign, right?
Yeah, 30-second commercials to use on TV, and then schools can use these commercials on website pages.
I think with the national teacher shortage and as hard as it is to hire teachers, the more advertising we can do for openings, the better off we're going to be. Any avenue we can pursue, we should look at. I think we should.
So I logged into my weekend account, and in CESA 7, there's 293 positions open right now. And $12,000 is a lot of money, absolutely. We're going to have to set ourselves apart somehow so that people want to come here, and that personal story is a big deal. I don't know if we do that. I don't know if we have the capacity to do that without the advertising right now. Maybe that's something we can work towards so that next year we wouldn't need to necessarily hire something like this, but I don't know if that's like if we have a school class that could work towards that or something. I mean, right now I think that would be a lot to say that we could do that in-house. But that's a lot of positions just in CESA 7 that need to be filled.
I look at it kind of an investment in recruiting.
Clint?
I just want to make one other comment with the personal story that you mentioned. A lot of our, not a lot, a small number of our teachers have come from professions like journalism. For example, we hired an English teacher this year that's went through that program that you described earlier, Andy, and was a former journalist, and marketing person for East Bay and now is bringing that journalism and marketing background to the English classroom, and he's really having a lot of success with that. And so maybe it gets some people thinking about other careers that they could possibly go into, and if they hear about those personal stories, that might get people thinking.
Absolutely, and right now, like everybody's talking about how it's the Great Resignation. If this is a time where you want a new job, this is the time to take it. There are lots of jobs available, so I think we have to really set ourselves apart, whether it's this campaign or something else, but making sure people know why they want to come to Epoxy, not just be at positions, but you want to be here for a reason.
Are we gonna make it to the top 10?
That is why it's on for action tonight. Should the board decide, I feel confident that we be one of the first 10. If you would decide you wanted to wait and bring it back, I mean, we could do that too. I'm certain our chances would be less, but I don't know by how
I
many.
didn't read, can we approve it contingent on us being one of the top 10? Does it really do us any good if we're not
I see what you
trolling
mean.
from our
Of
people?
course, yes. Yeah. Jake, did you have something?
Yeah, I would just add that, we talk a lot about, certifying staff and the weekend, my whole world, weekend doesn't really do anything for us. We're looking for that local, candidate that's either at the right point in their career that may want to get a change of pace, or typically as they get closer to the end of their working career, they want a different change of pace that they can't, I think of people that are commuting a lot, I guess is one example, that they're like, well, there's something here in town that I could do that they might consider. That's a number of my candidates that I've got. But that being said, I've had positions open for over a year. I don't get candidates. People don't apply, and I don't know fully why, but that is another avenue to think about to help the support staff side.
That is a good point, Jake, because Keith Hiltz did specifically say we would have support staff in the commercials. And then when I look here, it says part of the campaign, I just lost it, would be to communicate with passive candidates, people who aren't necessarily looking for a job, but are spurred to contact us, based on the commercial. Tim just shared with me from WSAW, thank you, Tim, as of 3:08 this afternoon, they have 4 districts committed. Did they list the districts? No.
Come on, Tim, working magic.
That was just coincidental.
Did we have a motion on this already?
We have the motion, but if you wanted to make an amendment to
Contingency.
yeah.
Contingent upon being one of the first 10.
Yeah. I guess I'll make that amendment.
Put it into words if you please.
I move the board approve the sponsorship in the Central Wisconsin Schools Recruitment Promotion, subject to being included in the top 10.
So your amendment would be subject to being in the top 10.
Correct. First 10. Yes.
First 10. And is there a second on that amendment?
I'll second the amendment.
Any comments on the amendment?
I guess email it to them if we vote yes or and say we want a spot.
Okay, go ahead. This is just a roll call for the amendment.
For the amendment, Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Ornament,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes.
Neufeld,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. And now, any further comments on the motion as amended?
Someday I want to see someone vote against their motion. Like I want to vote against my amendment or something. I just think it'd be entertaining. I'm not going to do that right now.
Okay, then we'll go ahead with the motion as amended, and when you read it back to us.
I move the board approve the sponsorship in the Central Wisconsin Schools recruitment promotion, subject to being included in the first 10.
Okay, go ahead and draw.
Schrader,
Yes.
Bardo,
No.
Borneman,
Yes.
Yes.
Gagnon,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
No.
Mary,
Yes. And then we're going to item G, but Mary Kay sent me a text this afternoon and said there is not going to be an overnight travel, so we don't have to approve that. Is that correct?
that's correct, they've changed it to just a one-day trip.
Okay. Then we're going to item H, a report of employee resignations and retirements.
I move the board accept the retirement of Randall King Middle School custodian, Joanne Degner Middle School custodian, and resignation of Samara Dulas, school psychologist.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then item 4 on the agenda is thank you to outgoing members. Mary and William, you've served here with the interest of kids in mind, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Obviously, I'm disappointed in the way the election turned out. I also have some concerns about the direction the school board is headed. There were comments made in the forum a couple of weeks ago, and I saw a comment on social media the other day about they're very pleased that the conservatives are on and the liberals are off. The campaign was, for the 3 people who won, was heavily funded by the Republican Party of Lang Lake County. And school board positions are not supposed to be liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat. They're supposed to be neutral. I'm concerned that Dr. Barrow's proposed to ban over 50 publications from our school library. I think that's the wrong move.
That is a lie, and I'm going to call you out on it right now. I never said ban those books. You go back to the meeting.
Okay,
look at it at 1 hour, 43 minutes, and I'm tired of this because I never said I wanted to ban any book.
Well, all right. I'll ask for
Enough.
It's his turn.
I'll ask for clarification then.
All you got to do is look at the video.
I'll ask for clarification. That's all I'm asking for, Dave.
I think we can just go on with anything else.
Well, that's it. I think that with the direction, again, the board is headed, I think the people who are going to suffer are the teachers and the students. And that's all I have to say. But thanks for including me in this. It's been an education. I wish you all well. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
I, of course, was going to come in here all guns and, basically, it was a struggle for the last, since COVID started. It was a struggle for me to sit in these meetings and not say anything. Especially during the public comment, and we're not supposed to say anything. And it was really hard. I'd go home at night and I would be sick to my stomach. I was a wreck. And some of the things that have been said, about rubber stamping and different things that were said during the forum and on the private invitation-only Facebook page, that to me that makes me question transparency. But I'm not going to go there. I'm not gonna say everything. I mean, I really prepared for tonight, and I'm not going to. I just really would like to ask that the board members, even the the sitting board, the board members that are here tonight, that are staying on the board, several times when I got home from a meeting, I opened the board member bylaws, policy 0144.5 on board ethics and conduct during meetings, and you know, the words integrity, honor, honesty, credibility, truthfulness, respect and dignity at all times, maintain decorum. That's been so lost, and not just in our board meetings, it's been lost in our whole country. And the one that really jumps out at me every time I open these policies is letter O. Refrain from using their board positions for personal partisan gain. Girls, when you, Kristen and Angie, are you still here? When you go to your new board member orientation, please really listen to what they say about accepting the results of a vote. Whether you agree or you disagree, you go with the majority, and they give a lot of good, helpful information in there, and I know that you will get a lot out of going to that meeting and listening to what they have to say. And I'm happy for you. I hope it goes well for you. I guess I just, you know, when I did apply for the vacancy on the board in February of 2018, I have to admit I did come on with an agenda. I wish Jill was still on. She's not. That was when two administrators in the district were, well, they were fired from their positions. I guess fired is the word you would use, with no cause and no paper trail. And it was, when I applied for the position, it was over and it was done. But my agenda, my feeling was, I'd like to be on the board to make sure something like that never happened again, that there was if somebody was going to lose their job, or you know, there needed to be cause, and there needed to be, you know, a paper trail and improvement plans. And I've had a couple of board members tell me that they realized afterwards, and it wasn't when Dr. Sprague was here, that maybe things should have been handled differently, and they weren't, and everybody moved on and went to different jobs. But Jill, we went to there was a board meeting in the media tech room, and it was standing room only. I mean, it was definitely a fire hazard. People were sitting on the stairs, and when it was public comment, only one person spoke, and it was Jill. And I still have what she said during that meeting about how it was handled and the people that were let go, and that was when trust was destroyed in this district. And Dr. Sprague has worked very, very hard to try and, you know, we talk about trust in the community, but if you don't have trust within your family, your group of people, you are really in trouble. And it's hard to build that trust back. You know, I see teachers and, you know, they tell me things and I'll say, you know, come to the board meeting, bring it, you know, get it on the agenda. They're petrified. Not of Julie, they're just, or of Dr. Sprague, excuse me, they're not. They're afraid it's going to come back on them and there's going to be consequences. And for somebody to feel that anxiety about their job, it's heartbreaking. And I hope that at some time our people, our staff can start to trust again. And I really, and of course now I'm going to get all emotional, you know, I really did, even though I stressed and I would make myself sick, I really did enjoy serving the students and the staff of this district. And I probably would attend the meetings unless I have something to say, and now I can talk and I can say what I want to say. So thank you and good luck to everybody.
Okay, thank you for both of you for your service. With that, we will go on to confirming the next meeting will be Tuesday, May 10th. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, final motion.
Yeah. Second.